According to independent.co.uk, the QAnon conspiracy is moving into stranger and stranger territory. Q, the leader of the QAnon movement, hasn't posted anything new since December. It looks like they gave up on the movement, but the members are carrying on in their stead. We've seen some of the leadership, like InfoWars correspondent Deanna Lorraine, speak out against QAnon. She flipped on them, said she's done with it. It was ridiculous from the get-go, and we shouldn't be putting our faith in a grand plan with zero evidence. But some leaders are driving people deeper and deeper into conspiracy land. Apparently, the remaining generals started claiming that Trump is actually still the president and he's carrying out the plan at the White House without anybody realizing it. They also believe that Trump himself is Q, something I hadn't really considered, and honestly, something I seriously doubt. QAnon started on 4chan, before Trump was who he is today. The most likely scenario is Q's actually the guy who started 8chan. If it's not him, then he knows who Q is. And you know there are no secrets from the FBI. A secret that big wouldn't stay secret for long. Anyways, Ben Collins, reporter for NBC, tweeted this, quote, "There's a picture going around Facebook right now that refers to the 10 days of darkness. Some Q people believe Trump is still in power and has been secretly executing the deep state for the last 10 days in front of the White House." End quote. It's a picture of the White House with some fencing around it, and apparently somebody photoshopped a real picture of Gallows on top of it. And it looks pretty authentic. If you know what you're looking for, though, you can tell it was photoshopped. Then he tweeted this, quote, "The bloodlust for these supposed broad daylight executions by QAnon people on Facebook is staggering. Some people disbelieve, others love it." Then he posted a screenshot of some QAnon people talking about the picture. Somebody said, "The only thing, I didn't think this was real. I thought it was dummies, not real people. Who's hanging?" Somebody responded, "Sheeple who follow the blinded sheep." Another person said, "I hope these aren't test dummies hanging there." Watching this movement change over time is really very fascinating. For the most part, the group is breaking up and falling apart, but some of the fractures are becoming more and more radicalized. They're buying into more and more extreme and crazy things. We've got a lot of work to do as a country to help these people wake up from this madness. You guys remember Pastor Jim Bakker, right? Scam artist who keeps getting in trouble over and over again for promoting scam products like colloidal silver. He claimed it was a cure for the virus and the FDA came after him for it, among other things. Well, he's genuinely upset over the Capitol situation from January 6th. Or he's pretending to be anyways. It's usually hard to tell in these cases, but I have a backlog of his other videos on queue, so let's see what he had to say. In this clip, he's denouncing the Capitol riots.
Christians don't burn buildings down. Christians don't riot. They just don't.
Okay, that's pretty clear. Christians don't do that stuff. They're above it. That's pretty clear and definitive. But, oh, yeah, video cameras exist. Let's see what else he's had to say about the subject over the course of the Trump presidency. This clip is from 2017.
I want to warn America. You're warning America. I think if we elect the wrong people and you see how wrong it's been, we're going to have a revolution.
That's not good. Kind of sounds like he's encouraging his audience to participate in a revolution to me. Exactly what was attempted on January 6th. Well, he didn't come out and say it, right? Let's check the next clip. This one's about Trump's first impeachment.
I'll tell you what, if they go through with that, there will be a riot in the United States of America. And you're going to find little old ladies rioting.
Yes.
You're going to find the church people out rioting because they're not going to take it anymore.
No.
Did he say you'd find the church people rioting? Uh-oh, he's starting to look more and more like a charlatan. Let's check the next one. Again, about the first impeachment.
There's going to be an explosion if you don't stop it.
Mm-hmm.
People are not going to tolerate it any longer.
They're calling it the next American Civil War.
And you know, and I wouldn't even be surprised if you don't see quiet old ladies like some of you sitting here marching in the streets.
Uh-oh. So he isn't just talking about protest. He's actually talking about Christians taking part in a civil war. How do you come back from that? Here's the next one. He's still talking about the first impeachment.
I will predict, if it happens, there will be a civil war in the United States of America. The Christians will finally come out of the shadows because we are going to be shut up permanently if we're not careful.
Wow, dude, seriously. How do you come back from making a fool of yourself so thoroughly? It's almost like people don't give a shit how hypocritical this dude is. And that's not it. There's clip after clip of him saying this exact line and inviting guests onto his show to parrot the narrative. After spending the past 4 years whipping his congregation into a blood frenzy, they finally act, and he says this.
Christians don't burn buildings down. Christians don't riot. They just don't.
Dude is an embarrassment. I feel bad for the poor suckers who fall for it. Maybe they'll find their way out one day, but I'm not holding my breath. He's been a charlatan since day one, and if something like this won't change his tune, nothing will. Remember Kat Kerr? She's one of the supposed prophets who claimed that God specifically came to them and said, Trump is going to be president. I am installing him myself. Usually I leave it up to you guys to vote, but Trump is my guy, and I'm going to play the Trump card on the United States. Before the election actually took place, Kat Kerr said, quote, I can just tell you this from heaven. Trump is going to win. We in America are the land of the brave, the free, and the filled with God. I can tell you that whole event was filled with the presence of God. And yes, there were 1,000 angels waiting. You know who these angels were? I could see them sitting all up in the upper stands and everything, in the seats, and they were white. They just glow with the glory of God. But they actually were wearing red, white, and blue robes. End quote. Wow, I didn't know angels were so political or so conservative. Bizarre. She went on to say, quote, and the Holy Spirit said these angels are special ops angels that were sent from heaven back in 2016 to fight on behalf of America, on our president, on his administration, God's plans that he has for this country, and they were there to be sent out again right now. And we all did that. It was very powerful to see them. They shoot past us like beams of light, and they were very powerful beings. End quote. Special ops angels, you say. So not only do these angels you're seeing that no one else can see share your political views, but they also operate within a structure similar to the military of the country that you live in. That is super credible. Couldn't be more credible, in fact. So how'd she react after the election? She disintegrated. But from November to January, there was still hope. She kept claiming Trump would pull out a win, even though everybody on planet Earth knew he wouldn't. Now that the inauguration is over, she has no choice but to admit she was wrong, right? Guess again. Here's what she said. Quote, this is what happened on January 20th, 2021. There was a scroll open in heaven. The scroll's name is called Justice. Things began to be sent down to this earth at an accelerated rate. The Holy Spirit is setting something in place, something that will become a move of God that will touch this whole earth and will make things very miserable for hell. The scroll is a piece of paper on a wooden dowel. It's a living thing. When it's opened, it speaks itself. It reads itself, so it's released on earth. So things have already been set in place. You can't see it unless you're a seer, and I keep telling people, if you were a seer, you'd see demons running and screaming from DC as fast as they can to get out of there. End quote. Okay, so she's taking the same route as Johnny Enlow. The whole Trump is still president in heaven route. The route that allows her to believe that she was right all along and those poor fools who didn't believe her were proven wrong. In all honesty, religion is not a mental illness. Seriously, it isn't. If we're looking at the diagnostic and statistical manual for mental illness, religion doesn't fit in there. But if she's literally seeing angels in stands at a stadium or receiving actual messages from God or whatever else, I'm inclined to believe that there's some mental illness mixed in here somewhere. I'm not saying that to be offensive or mean. I just worry about this kind of thing. If it was a single nutbag claiming to hear God, it wouldn't be a big deal. But this person isn't a nobody. People follow her. People listen to her. This is a problem. Most pastors I come across have a loose connection to reality. Like, they recognize that, say, praying for mildew to disappear in your walls isn't actually going to do anything for you. They recognize that they're vulnerable to the virus. God isn't going to save them from it. But not Pastor Andrew Wommack. He was on his show recently and he said, quote, when my wife and I first got married, we were poor and we lived in a house that wasn't insulated. We just had mildew everywhere. And you know what I did? Instead of taking something and cleaning it off and repainting or something, I took Deuteronomy 28 and read it. Mildew, you are a curse. Then I turned over to Galatians 3:13. I'm redeemed from you. And I spoke to mildew and cursed it. And did you know it went away without me having to clean it and do something? End quote. Are you kidding me? This dude unironically thinks he prayed away mildew. What is this guy smoking? If only he had some proof. But this isn't the only example of him praying something away. He gets technical with it too. In April 2020, right after the pandemic really started getting serious, he said, quote, we were promised that no sickness would ever come nigh to our dwelling. I've been studying just in the last couple of days based on all of this. Exodus 23:25 said that you shall serve the Lord your God, and he shall take all sickness away from the midst of thee. And I looked up those words in Hebrew, and the word take and away, the word on either side of sickness, it literally means to turn off. He will turn off sickness. And it was put in there twice just to emphasize that, you know, whatever receptors you have in your body that make you receptive to sickness, he'll turn it off. That's awesome. End quote. Is this guy for real? Does he really believe this? Does he actually believe that God would just blow mildew away just because he prayed for it? Does he actually believe God would just turn off cellular receptors or whatever? Well, if God can do something so trivial, why hasn't he solved the world's problems? Apparently, Wommack has the ability to harness God's power on a whim. So why doesn't he fix world hunger or cancer? Either he's full of shit and he really can't do it, or Wommack is a moral monster for not doing it sooner. As far as I know, though James Randi did die recently, his cash prize for proving something supernatural is still on the table from the James Randi Foundation. If he really can do this, he's got $1 million waiting for him. Just go pick it up. The James Randi Foundation isn't the only group that would be willing to give him money to prove it either. Hell, if he could prove it to me without a shadow of a doubt that he really did have the ability to harness God's power, I would personally turn over every worldly possession I own. You guys remember the runoff elections in early January 2021, right? Well, during the runoff elections between Republican Senators Loeffler and Perdue and Democrat Senators Warnock and Ossoff, Pastor E.W. Jackson, right-wing radio host and former candidate for Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, came out and claimed that the Democrats, Ossoff and Warnock, the eventual winners of the elections, were demonically possessed. He said, quote, "If we send those two demonically possessed people, Warnock and Ossoff, if we send them to the U.S. Senate, we will be cursing our nation." End quote. As I mentioned, they both eventually won that election. But while listening to this, remember, Senator Warnock is the pastor for Martin Luther King Jr.'s church. Now, I don't believe in demonic possession. I don't even believe in God. But if I did, I think he'd be the last person to be possessed by Satan. Anyways, let's get back to what E.W. Jackson was saying. Quote, "Georgians who are listening to me or watching me right now, we will be cursing our nation if we send those two demonically possessed people to the U.S. Senate. And they are demonically possessed. If we allow those folks to enter the U.S. Senate and give the likes of Chuck Schumer control over the Senate, we'll be bringing a curse on the U.S. I don't know of any more honest and stark way to put it." End quote. Chuck Schumer was the Democrat Senate minority leader until Ossoff and Warnock won the runoffs. Now he's the majority leader. Anyways, I guess this means the U.S. has been taken over by Satan, right? How delusional do these people get? Seriously, what does demonic possession even look like? How does he know they're demonically possessed? Is there some kind of a test? Did he run that test? Is it just, if they don't agree with you politically, they're demons? You must see how that's a slippery slope, right? Anyways, this guy had more to say recently. Biden is president now, and the Senate and the House is controlled by Democrats. So he decided to sit there and cry about it. In a recent video, he went after Biden's cabinet picks. He said, quote, "No transgenders in heaven. No homosexuals in heaven. Nobody in heaven is going to be confused about what God made them to be. Nobody in heaven is going to be talking about, I'm a man, but I've got a woman on the inside. Please. See, that's how you know this stuff is of the devil. That's how you know. Because that stuff is not going into heaven. So what people need to do is get saved now. Get delivered now." End quote. What a scumbag, dude. Seriously. I find it fascinating that he's declaring that gay and trans people aren't going to make it into heaven, and then he uses that premise to prove that it's wrong. I don't like it, and that's how I know it's wrong. Circular reasoning. And for the record, I don't get the impression anybody's confused about what they are. That's the point. For the most part, gay and trans people know exactly who they are. He just doesn't like it. Good thing nobody gives a shit what he thinks. Does this guy just live to make people's lives miserable? If he doesn't like what other people do or who other people are, why does he care? Nobody is forcing him to be gay. Again, I can't think of a better term to describe this guy than scumbag.